Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and many people have been seeing a tweet by a man by the name of Mark D. Levine talking about mass burials in New York City, and many have been talking about the potential of mass burials even in Central Park. Now, we're going to go into all this craziness and more today. As this article says out of Fortune, New York City prepares to use parks as temporary burial sites. And as the article goes into here, it says the death toll from COVID-19 coronavirus is rising so fast in New York City that officials expect to use city parks as temporary interment facilities, according to the chairman of the city's Council Committee on Health. Mark D. Levine, a council member who represents the 7th District in northern Manhattan, made the shocking announcement on Twitter saying, "Soon we'll start temporary internment. This likely will be done by using a New York City park for burials." Yes, you read that right. Trenches will be dug for 10 caskets in a line. It will be done in a dignified, orderly, and temporary manner, but it will be tough for New Yorkers to take. New York morgues, he says, are already full, and while FEMA has sent 85 refrigerated trucks to New York City to serve as temporary morgues, those too are filling fast, and we've been seeing stories regarding this coming out of NPR. We're seeing them coming out of websites like Mediaite, as this says. NYC Council Health Chair says city will use parks to bury bodies of coronavirus victims. Now, to be clear, there are some of those out there that are combating this. As Freddie Goldstein says, we are not currently planning to use local parks as burial grounds. We are exploring using Hart Island for temporary burials if the need grows. Well, here's the thing. With all these theories and all these people coming out and saying that there's a potential that they might be using Central Park of all places to bury bodies, as well as setting up, temporary FEMA facilities, one has to ask, is it not at this point just clear fear mongering? I mean, if you're using something like Central Park as a burial ground when you have vast wilderness surrounding New York City, is that not, in this case, just a way to pull on the heartstrings of New Yorkers and people around the country, even more so, scare them more and scare them, I guess, perhaps into submission? This is the issue that I'm going to go over a bit more shortly, but I do want to mention that a lot of doctors have been coming out lately questioning the authenticity of coronavirus reports, the actual strain of coronavirus that these tests are testing for, and where these tests are being used for. They say there's a shortage of tests, so stay inside, just don't leave your house, perhaps, as Dr. Fauci says, until there's no new cases of COVID-19, and that could last 2 years or more. Like 4 months goes by, one person has it, you still have to stay in your house. Hundreds of millions of jobs are just wiped out. I mean, it's just insane. And we'll go into the side effects and all that soon, and the real beneficiaries soon. But it also makes me wonder about this article out of CNN that says a tiger at the Bronx Zoo tests positive for coronavirus. So they don't have tests for people, but they're going around testing tigers. And I thought it wasn't transmittable by animals. First they say it came from bats. Then they say it couldn't have come from bats, and it's not transmittable via animals. And at the same time, they're saying don't wear a mask. They're saying go out, hug a Chinese person day, and all this kind of stuff earlier on in the year while all this was breaking out in China. And now they're saying the exact opposite of all of it. I mean, it's just, you got to wonder when they say, where it originally came from. Everyone was attacked early on for saying that the coronavirus may have leaked from the Wuhan lab. Originally, the first case of coronavirus, novel coronavirus, was a sample created by man in a lab. And it was seen in the Netherlands, shipped over to a Winnipeg, Canada lab as far as one sample went. And then one of the samples that they had there went missing. And then we see this leak out of Wuhan, China, unless bats flew into a really hard to get into secure facility, disease research facility, one of the biggest in Asia by far, in Wuhan, ate the sample, came out, someone ate the bat, even though it was apparently not transmittable. That's the only way I can see that being the case. Well, now, as this MSN News article says, did coronavirus leak from a research lab in Wuhan? Startling new theory is no longer being discounted amid claims staff got infected after being sprayed with blood. And many whistleblowers came out and said that this was just covered up for a long period of time. Many whistleblowers have come out, as far as doctors even in the United States, saying that this is being overrepresented, while whistleblowers in China say it's being underrepresented. So basically what they're doing is they're propping up the numbers artificially in the United States with a bunch of people who don't have it, while not counting people who actually do have it in China, claiming all is well in China and that they've flattened the curve basically, while whistleblowers are saying that they cleared out hospitals full of people that were still sick so that Xi Jinping could come in there and say all is well. I think this is a major power grab. It's a major power shift to China. I believe that this has been in the playbook for a long time. And I've done a video recently on it called The Chinese Global Takeover. If you want to go more in depth on that subject, you can find it on our channel at World Alternative Media. But to me, it just seems that all of this is being artificially created. It's a bioweapon. It's being spread artificially. And also people who have pneumonia, people who are getting in car accidents, people who have heart attacks are being diagnosed after they die with coronavirus and then being added to the number. I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. They're counting people on cruise ships. They're counting people in the woods. They're counting people that have been gone for 4 or 5 weeks from the country itself of Mexico as victims in Mexico, and propping up the numbers here as well. I think that this is hugely being covered up, and we are getting countless doctors saying that the emergency rooms are empty. And now that doesn't mean that there aren't severe problems in the hospitals, but nonetheless, I can't help but think that with all the people filming hospitals and all the information coming out of hospitals around the world showing that they're almost empty, and sure, people could be sent home and be quarantined at home and all that kind of stuff, you're still getting reports in the news of crowded hospitals. So why is it, the reality seems much different from that. So when I hear this news about possibly burying people in public parks, that just seems to me like more of a fear-mongering tactic to get everyone in their home and to leave, to stay in their home and not leave and become a victim of this massive virus, not the coronavirus, the government and the banking system, as the economy is rocked by this insanity. And we're already seeing looting in New York City amid the coronavirus lockdown. There is a shortage of ventilators, though I've heard from many companies that there's a huge surplus of ventilators. They're just not going to the right places, and that's where most of the older people are dying, because people are deciding whether people live or die right now at hospitals, which is really sad. And then there's this article that I mentioned in a recent live show I did called "Did Bill Gates Just Reveal the Real Reason Behind the Lockdowns?" And as the article goes into, after a 50-minute interview with Chris Anderson, Bill Gates said, but in fact, most people, even who get the COVID disease, are able to survive. So in that case, it's quite infectious, way more infectious than MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, were. But it's not as fatal as they were, and yet the disruption we're seeing in order to knock it down is really completely unprecedented. He goes on to say, it is really tragic that the economic effects of this are very dramatic. I mean, nothing like this has ever happened to the economy in our lifetimes. But bringing the economy back and doing, money, that's more of a reversible thing than bringing people back to life. So we're going to take the pain in the economic dimension, huge pain, in order to minimize the pain in disease and death dimension. But here's the issue here. He goes into this a bit further. He says, by all accounts, the impact of the response will be great, far-reaching, and long-lasting. Millions could potentially die from suicide, drug abuse, lack of medical coverage or treatment, poverty, and lack of food access, on top of other predictable social, medical, and public health problems stemming from the response to COVID-19. So he's basically admitting, first of all, this could blow over by April, by the end of April, but also he's saying that the response to it will likely kill more people than the virus itself. I mean, think about that for a second. Millions of deaths, just over 1 million people in the world have ever gotten the coronavirus, allegedly. Though 21 million phone numbers have disappeared in China, and there's a whole bunch of people missing in action in China. But nonetheless, they say but just over 1 million people globally have gotten the coronavirus so far. Yet he's saying that possibly millions of people could die from the side effects of the crackdown, the shutdowns, the quarantines that come with this illness. So that tells me one thing and one thing only. This isn't about controlling the virus, it's about controlling you. When you see people swimming in the ocean and getting arrested and beaten by police, that tells me the same thing. When you see people in the wilderness trying to get to their cabin, being arrested for trying to go to their cabin, which is far secluded as far as social distancing goes, it's very much distant from any humans. That, again, it isn't about stopping the virus, it's about stopping you from freely living. They have a communist crackdown on private property. They say they're going to be paying your rent. This is a control of your property. It sounds good in theory, but it is not good. On top of that, you have possible forced vaccinations. Bill Gates has been talking about that. You have trillions of dollars being printed. That's going to lead to massive inflation. Possibly 1 billion people in the entire world will lose their job due to this. And most of them will not get their jobs back. There's going to be bread lines. There's going to be food riots. There's going to be people that are starving and trying to feed their family and breaking into homes. There's going to be violence because of this. And there already is. We're already seeing the signs of that. And that is all worth stopping something that was bioengineered in the first place, a man-made illness? Well, here's the thing. Bill Gates was heavily involved in Event 201. You might have heard of it. Google Event 201. Event 201 was basically an exercise that was supposed to bring a bunch of politicians, news anchors, actors, business leaders, scientists, etc. together, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Society, in order to create a fake pandemic where it took over the world. They do it every year, but this one was very, very pertinent with what we're seeing right now happening worldwide, which is completely unprecedented. And it was interesting because a lot of the funders have been connected to past exercises that turned out to be actual accidental spreads of major illnesses. I want to mention this article from the LastAmericanVagabond.com, which says all roads lead to dark winter, and it explains the connection between what we're seeing with Event 201 and what we're seeing with all these past exercises that have turned into realities. As it says, the leader of two controversial pandemic simulations that took place just months before the coronavirus crisis, Event 201 and Crimson Contagion, share a common history: the 2001 bio-war simulation, Dark Winter. Dark Winter not only predicted the 2001 anthrax attacks, but some of its participants had clear foreknowledge of those attacks, which has of course come out since all of this went down. So we're supposed to believe that that is completely coincidental. We are seeing the biggest biggest control grab in the world's history ever. We're seeing the rise of technocracy. We're seeing the rise of the cashless society, and we're seeing all these massively clear connections. We see things like Google saying that they're going to release your location data to help fight coronavirus pandemic. They've already sold it multiple times to China, but now they're just going to release it for the greater good of the greater number. I believe that at this point, if you don't realize this is all a script, where is your head at, folks? I mean, this is obviously a script in order to take away all your freedoms and rights, and it was genius. This is one of the most genius exercises in the control of the populace I've ever seen in history. This might go very wrong for them long term, I think, but short term, it's genius because everyone's falling for it for the greater good of the greater number. If you don't do something, if the government doesn't do something, it's your grandma that's at risk. Well, what about the future of our freedoms? You think they're going to push this off to the side once it's all over? No, there's going to be 10 to 15 years of economic impact from this by far. Not to mention we're going to see Patriot Act type legislation that will just stick in place like after 9/11, but on steroids. This is going to lead to wars. This is going to lead to countless deaths, panic, divide, and everyone's going to be distracted by fighting each other instead of focusing on the real enemy that created this in the first place. Though what I do think is that we have countries like Sweden that are refusing to shut down, Belarus as well, and parts of Mexico even. And when we see, even if we see deaths in the middle of the road compared to countries that were completely shut down, there will be riots on the hands of the American empire. There will be riots on the hands of those in Britain and France and Germany and all these other places that have completely shut everything down and shut everyone up. In the Philippines, Duterte was telling people to kill anyone that defies the shutdown orders, and it's actually led to people being killed due to defying the shutdown orders. This is global totalitarianism, it's a global depression, and it's global fascio-communism. And people have just walked right into it blindly and stupidly and weakly independent. That is how they've pushed us into that realm for many years through public schooling, media. And again, it goes back to that quote, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. And we go in that circle perpetually, but this time it's on steroids due to global technocracy and just the amount of impact that this is having on every single country in the entire world. You should be questioning who benefits, who is going to be able to take the cake here. I believe that'll be China. I believe this is long in their playbook, and I believe that all of you should be very wary of that and stand up now for your freedoms. If not now, then you might as well go into Central Park, find one of those burials, and jump right in and bury yourself, because you are seriously becoming apathetic in the worst time in history to become apathetic. Everyone goes, oh, well, if we don't do anything, if the government doesn't save us from this, we're all going to die. Well, we're all going to be in a much worse situation. Even Bill Gates agrees. If this continues economically, it's just unbelievable. Just the amount of jobs that are gone. It's so horrible. So anyway, I really appreciate everyone joining us for this quick report. I didn't want to get into it too deep today. We got many shows coming up with many experts on the subject. We got Dr. Shiva coming on our show shortly. We got Benny Wills. We got many people in the next couple weeks. J. Edward Griffin. Hopefully Del Bigtree will come back again and talk about the coronavirus. We got lots more to talk about, guys. So stay tuned. Check the links below. Obviously, join our new newsletter at www.iamband.com. That's www.iamband.com, and join us on float.app at Josh Sigurdson, as well as at WHAM. That's flote.app. I am looking forward to bringing you all this craziness that I've been up to here in Mexico soon, so stay tuned for that. Hit that like button and check those links below. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, WHAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribe Star. We really can't do it without you. We've been so insanely shadow banned, about 90% at this point, and 95% demonetized. As Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, comes in and says that she is shutting down quote-unquote controversial content and cutting out the views on this controversial content by 70%. She's been bragging about it. We need your help more than ever in this battle for truth in information. You guys are what keeps us alive, so we really appreciate just even $1 a month makes a huge difference. If everyone could give just $1 a month, we wouldn't even have to worry about competing against the mainstream propaganda networks. You can also donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen for you to scan if you please, as well as in the comments and description. Liking and sharing makes a big difference as well, and finding us on alternative social media platforms like float.app, that's flote.app, makes a huge difference. We're at Josh Sigurdson as well as at WHAM. Float is replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging, and of course monetization on videos for creators, live streams with super chats in crypto, and most of all, no algorithm, because at the end of the day, it's all about reach, guys. This is all about actually reaching people with the message and waking up the public. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Minds, BitChute, all sorts of different platforms. Try to follow us on as many things as possible, because very soon this channel will very likely just be completely deleted from YouTube, and you'll never see us again, and you'll be stuck with only the mainstream networks. Also, come on out and see us at Anarcho Vegas 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada in July, where such speakers such as G. Edward Griffin and many others will be speaking. You could use promo code WHAM on your VIP tickets and save 10%, as well as buy extremely cheap tickets for just $20.20. You won't find a cheaper conference than this with such amazing names. Check anarchovegas.com for more information on that. We hope to see you out there. And anyway, I really appreciate all of you guys joining us. You make it possible for us to survive in this volatile, propagandized climate. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.